Son of a... Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is the Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome back to Rome 2 Total War, and welcome to a new faction that they've decided to come out, decided to put out here. This is the Seleucid Empire. These guys are one of the farther east factions, and they own basically like half the world at the start of the game. It's a pretty weird faction to be able to play as. So anyhow, let's go over the units that they've decided to give these guys. They've got a pretty big roster. So first off, you've got the Scythe Chariots. These are exactly the same as the Egyptian or Pontic Scythe Chariots. They've got the Shield Bearers. These guys are actually exactly the same as the Macedonian Shield Bearers. They're a pretty good, durable unit. They've got the Agema Cavalry, who are a shock cavalry type. They're the lighter of the two here, but as you can see, they still have very heavy cavalry statistics. They're pretty decent. A little bit higher on the melee defense than what I typically see on shock cavalry for a little bit less health and armor, or health or armor rather. Next up, Royal Peltas. These are exactly the same as others of that type. And Silver Shield Swordsman. Now, these guys have a different name, but their statistics are exactly the same as the Royal Thorax Swordsman. So, not necessarily all that great. I much prefer the Royal Peltasts. But if you really want a sword unit, they'll stick it around. The Silver Shield Swordsman, just like the Royal Thorax Swordsman, are pretty good. Next up are the Silver Shield Pikemen, an elite sort of pike unit. These guys I'm not too sure of. They cost 1,000. They're not really any better than Hellenic Royal Guard, so I'm not really sure if they can justify their high price tag. But they are a very high quality pike unit if that's what you're into. Next up, they've got the Hellenic Cataphracts. These guys are their ultra heavy shock cavalry. They're similar to the Parthian Cataphracts and have very good statistics. They're really, really tough to kill. A lot of damage when they charge. Very good unit for that sort of thing. Next up, you've got the Indian Armored War Elephants, and these guys are actually just monsters. They've got almost 1,000 hit points each. Very, very tough. They've got tons of melee attack, and these guys are just going to be monsters on the battlefield. You could actually base a lot of your early game strategy, if you're playing the campaign as Seleucids, just around Indian Armored Elephants, if you'd like to. Next up, let's talk about the melee infantry here. As you can see, these guys have got the Hillmen, which are one of those axe units that just doesn't work very well. They've got the Thorax Swordsmen, who are a decent sort of low-tier sword unit. I don't like the fact that they've got such low melee attack, but their melee defense statistics, as always, are excellent. Next up, they've got the Royal Peltasts, who are a very strong elite unit. They're very good at causing a lot of damage. And then the Silver Shield Swordsmen, who are more durable, but I don't quite like them as much just because they lack that offensive capability that the Royal Peltasts have. They did mention something about shields in patch 5 and different shield types having a more profound effect on the way that they interact with missiles or other attacks, so maybe the shield difference is going to make the Silver Shield Swordsman superior to the Royal Peltasts. I'm not entirely certain about that, but we'll have to find out through testing. Moving on to the Spear Infantry, you've got the Persian Hoplites. Very weak light unit. Basically give it a pass unless you just need something to cover your back and all you've got is a little bit of money. Thurio Spears, that's sort of where you're going to want to have. They're not a bad unit at all. They're pretty decent. And then, of course, the Shield Bearers, they're your sort of elite Spear Infantry. Now, you don't have any intermediary Hoplites. It's just Thurio Spears all the way up to the Shield Bearers. So keep that in mind that you can't really have medium units if you want a spear line. So that's not really what you're supposed to do with the Seleucid Empire. On the other hand, the pike line can be made fairly decently. They've got Levy Pike and Pikemen. These I've been having sort of issues with. I don't feel that they particularly perform all that well for their cost, even though they're quite cheap and are pike units. I think that the Thorax Pikemen is such a big step up from them that it's definitely worth just loading up on Thorax Pikemen if you're going to use those. And then, of course, there's Silver Shield Pikemen. You can include a couple of units of them if you really, really want a tough part of your line, but I do think that if you're going to go for that, play as Egypt or something and use the Hellenic Royal Guard. Moving on to Missile Infantry. These guys have a very good mix of Missile Infantry type units, and with the sort of tweaking with the numbers, the Eastern Javelin men could potentially be a lot of damage here. They've got 40 missile damage here. Even though only 6 of his armor pierced, and that's still quite a significant amount of damage. They've also got Persian archers, which is pretty decent, and of course they've got the Eastern slingers, who are excellent as well. So they've got some pretty good options for missile infantry. If they want more heavily armored missile infantry, for some reason Syrian heavy archers are fairly similar to the Roman style elite auxiliary archers. So moving on from that, you've got the shock cavalry. They've got 2 options. They've got the Agema cavalry, and they've got the Hellenic cataphracts. And these guys are pretty standard for what they are. They're nothing too amazing, and they're nothing too outlandish. They're pretty much what you typically see. They're very similar, I think, in a lot of ways to what you get as Parthia, which is kind of odd considering how much other options they get, but that's okay. Moving on to melee cavalry, they've got camel spearmen. You take these guys only to scare horses. They've got light cavalry. These are not really all that great necessarily. I personally think that if you're going to have something for that role, I just get some camel spearmen and suicide them into archers or whatever. But they've also got citizen cavalry, who are, as always, just kind of a good medium cavalry unit. And then they've got Median cavalry, who are fairly decent. They're missing the noble blood cavalry that you sort of see in between or just above the Median cavalry at 620. But they have got these Azat Knights, who are actually really, really good. They've got a lot of melee defense going for them. They've got a lot of health going for them. They're just going to be very difficult to kill. And they've got a decent melee attack. So Azat Knights are actually pretty good choices if you want a tough, durable melee cavalry unit and don't want to rely as much on that shock cavalry. Missile cavalry, it's pretty standard. They have got the camel archers, if that's what you kind of want there, as opposed to the ones with the javelins, but for the most part you're looking at the same sort of stuff for missile cavalry. For chariots, scythe chariots, again, not really my thing. I think they have been successively patching them so that they can do more and more damage, but I still don't really think that they're worth the cost that they're charging for them. Next up, they've got the Indian War Elephant, and obviously the Indian War Elephant is superior to the African War Elephant. That's why they cost so much, but they're really big, they're really tough, do a lot more damage. This have more mass. And then of course there's the Indian armored elephants, so those guys are just going to be complete monsters on the battlefield. So let's take a look at these guys on the campaign map. So that's their sort of entire lineup there. These guys are listed as one of the successor kingdoms, so that would be this one over here, as you can see. So Seleucid Empire, that means that they used to be part of the Macedonian kingdoms under Alexander the Great. And that is pretty much how they fight for the most part, but they have got some more regional variations. These guys have got, of course, successor conflicts, which is plus 10% morale for all units during battles against Hellenic factions, which are sort of Greek factions. Alexander's Legacy, minus 20% resistance to foreign occupation. And then they've got Royal Estates, plus 10% wealth from agricultural buildings, which is really good. Multiculturalism, minus 25% public order penalties due to presence of foreign cultures. And Overlords of the East, major diplomatic penalty with all Eastern factions, so people like Pontus, or if you go to Eastern Empires, Parthia. So those guys severely dislike the Seleucid Empire. So let's go ahead and start this up, and I will see you on the campaign map. Okay, hey there, welcome to the Seleucid Empire, or the Seleucid Empire in the campaign map. As you can see, we've got a pretty big empire already at the start here, and we've actually got quite a few satrapies to start with too. We've got these Arya guys, these Drangiani guys, the Medians, we've got the Parthiva, the Persians, the Sagartia, the Sardes, basically a whole ton of people. And quite a few of these people are actually willing to trade with you if you'd like. So you can go ahead, offer a trade agreement, and get it right away, which gives us access to importing wine and importing iron. And we've also got, to start, glassware and silk. So we've got quite a good amount of trade income. A lot of people like trading with us right off the bat. We're not going to be able to get Armenia to play ball, I don't think. We don't usually get that. But you just go through here, basically, and offer trade agreements to everybody you can, and you're probably going to increase your income by quite a bit, just because so many of these people are willing to trade with you, and it's worth quite a lot of money once they do.
We are civilized folk.
So let's get through that really quickly here. This
honored
includes
to
some of
greet
your
such an
satrapies,
ambassador
so
of such.
you can get through some of these pretty
I am
easily.
honored to receive this embassy.
Okay, good. So we have already increased our economy quite a bit here. Looking at our technology, we're going to go to organized supply. The reason that we need to do this, we need to get to the Holosaderos barracks right away, and I'm going to show you why in just a second here. But as you can see, we're incapable of researching or producing any of the more advanced barracks to start here, which is something I don't usually check, but sometimes I remember to do that. And we can't actually recruit anything, really. We've got light cavalry, which is not necessarily all that great. We've got levy pikemen, who are pretty okay, but they're fairly weak all in all. They get beaten by a lot of other types of units. They've got hillmen, which are kind of trash, and they've got eastern spearmen, which are absolute trash. And then we got a bunch of ranged units, and this is in our region that we've got our muster field. So we're actually looking at a situation where we can't really get any good troops. We could go to Edessa, where we have this other army here, and have absolutely worse troops with just the eastern spearmen, slingers, and other slingers. So what we can do to increase our military might just a little bit is to take our general, replace him right away with this guy over here or whatever, and for some reason you click this one for that, but get an armored elephant general. You could also use the cataphracts for this, but I like to use the elephants. So that's one way of doing things. Another way to get some more money is to disband these mercenary Indian war elephants. Strictly speaking, you don't really need them to get your way through places, but we're making plenty of money right now, and the extra 780 they're costing me isn't really holding me back too much yet. So one of the things we're going to go through right away, we're going to start expanding our city here. We're going to go ahead and click the Agora. We're going to go upgrade the fields here. And this is what our early game is going to be mostly. It's going to mostly be expanding our sort of industrial economic base across these sort of areas. Now, I do kind of want to be able to expand along the north a little bit here, so I do actually want to have a muster field in this region, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And over here in Edessa, we're going to get another farm since we kind of want money. Money is nice, and the only place really to expand to is Hatra, which is part of our satrapy. So we've got an enemy down here, Adamata, and these guys are the Kidri or something like that. Not really that powerful faction to be at war with. They're all the way down here, which means that even my spy can't get there very quickly. We're also on unfriendly terms with Egypt, so what's going to typically happen is we could very well find ourselves at war against Egypt. So it is important to make sure that we're being a little bit careful about how that progresses. We're going to start running our troops all the way down here, and we have to be a little bit careful about double timing our troops down to anywhere nowadays, since they have changed how that works a little bit. Now is a lot more deadly to do it if they catch you. All we have for cavalry, or sorry, mercenaries that we can hire is the mercenary Persian archers or the mercenary Persian cavalry. Not really anything that's going to be too helpful for us, so we can't rely on them to bolster our numbers at all. What we can do is, again, replace this guy with an elephant, so we'll do that later, since if we look at his unit right now, it's the Royal Peltasts. It's 150 upkeep for these guys, and it is 230 upkeep for those guys, so it's better to keep them off the elephants for a little while if you can, but you know, it's not a huge deal, it's just a little bit of money. So anyway, if you look at our progress, just running through the first turn really quickly there, you can see that we're just trying to expand our empire a little bit. I'm working on this Agora right away, since the Agora is going to be, it's worthwhile keeping Syria relatively happy as opposed to trying to turn it into some sort of economic superpower or keep it a relatively balanced place, because they don't have enough ports for me to turn it into a real economic powerhouse. What we're going to do is try and take over Egypt. The Egyptian area is one of the best in the game as far as money goes, and once we sort of taken over that, we'll have more than enough cash flowing to fund whatever shenanigans we really want to be getting into. We could also start trying to break our way to the east here through this huge tract of relatively barren bullshit, but this is our kingdom, so we don't really have to. As you can see, Parthia way the hell up here. We're going to end up at war with them almost certainly because of how many of our allies are just around there. But, you know, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So we're going to basically want to focus our military attention down south until we clearly have to go to the aid of our satrapies to the east. To the north, we could attack up there instead of going south. And honestly, attacking up to the north is not a terrible idea, simply because it's a little bit more densely populated, so it becomes a little bit easier to attack up that way. And it also brings us up into conflict with the other Greek successor states, or the Greek city-states, a lot more early, and they're a pretty lucrative area to be raiding through, so a lot of opportunities if we go to the north. The richest opportunities, I think, are still to the south, though, going through Egypt. So depends on what you find is going on, what you want to be doing, but you've got a lot of options as the Seleucid Empire, so keep that in mind when you're playing as them. Try and figure out what you want to be doing at any given time, and just try and make sure that your armies, one of the other things to note, you're allowed to have 9 armies at the start as the Seleucid Empire, so that is a big advantage, so it's worth keeping that in mind, and working towards that right away.
At your command. I want hourly patrols.
Anyway, that's my look at the Seleucid Empire in the campaign. We're just going to go with a very brief one. One of the things that I am going to point out fairly early, though, because it's pretty important, is that you do want to get the Holosideros barracks pretty early. It gives you Persian hoplites and pikemen, and these guys are a huge step up over the Eastern spearmen and the Levy pikemen. I cannot really emphasize enough that you really want to be able to upgrade those troops to that. But the thing is, even then, you're not looking at great units. You really do kind of want to be going even a tier above that. It's a bit like the barbarian factions, where your absolute top-end troops are amazing, and everything below that's kind of meh. But it does make for an interesting experience playing with those sort of weaker troops, trying to work your way up to those elites that you'll eventually get with your higher level technology. So look up your technology paths to try and figure out what sort of troops you're going to be getting from the, as you can see, let's look at the Royal Barracks. You know, look for what sort of troops you can get from the Royal Barracks and what you can be expecting from them. Looks like they haven't updated the wiki with these guys yet, but if I recall, you get pretty similar units to what you're getting from these the Egyptians here. You get your elephants, you get your silver shield swordsmen, and you get your silver shield pikemen, and I think you get your actually no, I think you need the Seleucid one of this. No, they've got a separate building chain for the Seleucids here. That's amazing. Yeah, so you get the oh, you don't get the elephants. Okay, so you do get like your shield bearers and your silver shield pikemen and your silver shield swordsmen, but you don't get your elephants there. I did not think you did not get your elephants there. Well, oh, right, it's in the cavalry one, so this is your other one. As you can see, these tier 3 buildings are giving you huge good units, and you can still get the Royal Peltas from the one below it, which is a really great sort of earlier sort of unit to get, but you know, you can sort of function if all you've got is the Holosideros barracks. It's not like you're going to be completely doomed or anything like that. So do try and keep in mind that you have got weaker units for quite a while, and once you've gotten your way out of there, you're going to wind up with really strong troops that are really expensive, so there's not really much in between there. Anyway, that's the Seleucid Empire on the campaign map, and my sort of idea of their different sort of strategies, or the sort of strategies that I would pursue. Of course, you're free to, if you want, just sort of sack Salamis if you want to, or do whatever you want, but I think that attacking sort of south is probably the most lucrative way, and attacking north is probably the most action-packed way. Anyway, let's get on to the battle.
Silver shield swordsman.
Hey, welcome back, YouTube. Here's our battle for the Seleucid faction. As you can see, we're setting up here with a pretty strong center of just pikemen and swordsmen. We're using the silver shield, which is the same as those Royal Thorax swordsmen. I'm trying to sort of showcase some of the unique units for this faction, or semi-unique units. So we got ourselves some Median, Azat Knights, who are advanced Median cavalry, and we got ourselves some Hellenic cataphracts, and we got ourselves these Indian armored elephants, which are pretty darn beefy, but not necessarily invincible, so don't overestimate them, really. We've also got some camel cavalry that we're just going to use on this side to make sure that we can scare cavalry on both sides here. So our infantry line is actually pretty standard. It's a little bit like a weak sort of Egyptian style line here. It doesn't have the same sort of power units that I would take as an Egyptian faction, and I didn't get their Royal Pike unit since they're a bit expensive and I don't really like their stats. So nothing wrong with taking them, but right now pikes are a little bit buggy, so they don't necessarily work all that reliably. We're against the Arverni here, so we're gonna sort of move up and advance. I don't really have much missiles because, again, weather. He's got Oathsworn, and he's got tons of cavalry, it looks like, and he's got lots of naked dudes, which is pretty typical for the Arverni faction. So the thing about the Seleucid Empire is that they can be really strong, they can take a very small elite force, but if they do that, their infantry isn't going to have a lot of punch, and you might end up outnumbered by too much of a degree here. So one of the things that you have to sort of watch out for, I've been noticing, is that balance of infantry to cavalry. You want to have your infantry be sort of a holding block. They're a bit like Athens in that regard, and they rely on all that ridiculously tough cavalry to do the majority of your killing. Because your heavy cavalry is actually fantastically strong. It's just that they're also very expensive, so make sure that you've got enough infantry to hold your opponent in place. So in this case, I'm relying a little bit on things like pikes, which are a little bit janky right now. We're going to form them into phalanx and move them up here. Actually, no, let's not. Let's move our army over here right now.
Awaiting orders. Forward! Orders, my lord. Honor for glory.
Let's move our guys back here. Don't really want to engage there.
Advance! Thorax pikeman! Break the lines!
Okay, so let's move these guys up here.
Forward! Advance at speed! Spear infantry at your command! Silver shield swordsman! Silver shield swordsman! Lost command! General! Armored elephant! Azats!
Okay, so let's charge these guys in here. Those silver shields over there. So not get these guys engaged over here. These guys back here, and our general. Let's get our pikes over there too. Okay, so this area is a bit of a mess, that's fine. Perfectly okay with that. Got these guys a bit surrounded, these Oathsworn. That's good. Let's get these pikes into a better position here. These guys ready over on the flanks. Spear warriors I'm gonna get to let do what they're doing. Oops, that's fine actually.
Orders understood. Shield quick march! Swift riders.
Let's see. How are our riders doing? It's not actually all that great over there, but it's not bad either, so.
Pikeman! Kappa! Glory!
It's not actually let our pike unit over here do what it's doing. What happened here? Oh god. Okay, we need to get some more cavalry over this side here.
Thorax pikeman! Charge! Pikes!
I think I see a bit of a gap here, so I'm going to run our cavalry into that gap, just our camels here. Looks like we're winning this cavalry fight over here, so gonna throw the rest of my good cavalry over there.
Ready! Thorax pikeman! At the ready!
Okay, who's over here?
Melee cavalry at your command!
Okay, who's all in here? This is a pretty right mess over here. Okay. Broken through on that side here. We're going to reform our phalanxes over here. Our camels are managing to make a bit of a mess over here. I think he's underestimated what he's running his light horse into over there. Okay, so we're going to lose a lot of our cavalry in this fight in the process of beating away his cavalry, but it looks like we are going to win this. Which is good. He's got some naked warriors over there. I need to get rid of those guys. Oops, those are not archers that my camels are fighting. Oh well.
Thorax pikeman! On my order, withdraw! Pull back! For glory! Thorax pikeman!
Okay, it looks like we're doing okay in terms of this big cavalry ball here. I think we're going to win it.
Advance, General! We fight! Or we command! Thorax pikeman!
Let's get our pikes up here as best we can. Let's get these silver shields into the shield wall.
Gray shields!
We're fighting Oathsworn though, which is not good. Celtic slingers. Elephants are still just barely hanging into this fight here.
By your command! Armored elephants!
Yeah, we should be able to beat those noble horse there.
Melee infantry at your command! Thorax pikeman!
Okay, so things going just a little bit sideways here. By which I mean I've just gotten out my pike side charge. It's not good. So we're going to lose this section, but we're going to have caused enough damage, I think, that we're going to be at a pretty big advantage overall. Just finished off this stuff here.
Advance at speed! At the double!
Weird. What's going on there?
Advance! Armored elephants!
Okay, let's get those armored elephants up there. They're not going to be able to last much longer, on all honesty, but it's going to be something. These Azats up here too. These guys got their pikes ready.
Cut them down!
Okay, good.
Pikeman! By your command! Backing order!
Good, good, good.
Armored elephants! For glory!
Let's get these guys into those naked warriors, I guess, first.
Engage!
What are these guys? These pikemen seem to have finished off whatever was there, if there was anything there. Smash right into those naked warriors, and that'll probably be the end of them, actually. It's pretty heavy shock cavalry they're fighting. Yep, that's them done.
Advance at speed! Thorax pikemen! By your command!
Let's get one of our silver shields up here.
For glory!
This bigger melee fight.
Elephants at the ready!
And I think we are going to manage to clear this up.
Cavalry, ready! Elephants!
Those elephants are pretty much all dead, but they did a really good job there. They lasted a long time in this combat. And it looks like, yeah, we got one left. That's all that really matters. And let's get our charges in on the back of his troops here. Whip our silver shields a little. Buff our troops up a bit.
Battle group disbanding! Charge! Quick march!
And that is going to be game. I don't really think there's much that his remaining naked warriors can do to stop my Seleucid pikemen as they advance in here. They can't believe we're winning. I got charge slams home.
General! To me!
This Oathsworn might be a little bit tough to crack, but shouldn't be too bad. Those naked guys just getting mowed over there.
Engage!
Let's whip these guys.
Close ranks! Raise shields! Cataphracts!
Okay, and I think it looks like we're about to win this, unless something miraculous happens for our opponent there. These cataphracts should be able to finish off these. Now, why are these pikemen not advancing into these guys?
Hellenic cataphracts!
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, our pikes just stopped moving forward for a second there. But yeah, that's the battle. An awfully close one, but tends to be when you're playing Seleucids, at least for me, since I don't often, I don't really know how to best play them. So as you can see, got a lot of kills with a couple of our heavier units, but not very much with the rest. It's kind of how I think things go with them, but yeah, that's the Seleucid Empire. I hope you found this informative, and as always, hope to see you all next time.